Hello, and thank you for watching our presentation on Hertz and the rental car industry. Hertz is one of the three largest rental car companies in both the United States and the world. It's the second largest, exceeded by Enterprise Holdings and followed by Avis Budget Group. The top three companies own 95% of the US market and 75% of the world market. Airport rentals account for the majority of Hertz revenues, but make up only about 1/3 of their total locations. 34% of all Hertz rentals are to loyalty club members, which is somewhat consistent within the industry, or at around 28%. Insurance replacement and fleet management are also significant sources of revenue for the Hertz Corporation. So now we're going to talk about the general environment of Hertz and the rental car industry. At the end of 2015, there were over 218 million licensed drivers in the United States. 9 states, California, Texas, Florida, New York, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Ohio, North Carolina, and Michigan, account for half of those licensed drivers. Rental car companies saw 2016 revenues of $28.42 billion, with the top three firms, Enterprise, Hertz, and Avis, accounting for 95% of that revenue. In 2016, there were 77.6 million arrivals into the United States from foreign countries for business and leisure travel. In total, there was $990 billion in direct travel spending in the United States last year. The economic segment does not have a tremendous effect on the rental car industry, though there are economic pressures from the on-demand rental car providers that allow for rentals to be hired by the minute from a smartphone as needed. Further, there is evidence that shifting market tastes are driving consumers to car-for-hire services like Lyft and Uber and away from rental car counters for business travel. The political segment does not seem to be much of a factor for the rental car vehicle business at this point in time. However, as the car for hire and ride sharing services continue to mature and as rental car companies acquire stakes in these ventures, the political legal segment may become extremely relevant. Socio-cultural segment of the rental car business may be one of the most interesting to play out over the coming years. The idea of getting into a stranger's vehicle and being driven around has gone from being nearly unheard of to becoming completely accepted by the population in general. In addition, millennials aged 20 to 24 are not getting driver's licenses at the same rate as generations before them. Vehicle ownership is also not the status symbol of freedom that it was for generations past. And vehicle ownership can carry some serious disadvantages in densely populated urban areas. On the technological side, the technological segment is where the great pressure is really being felt currently by the traditional car rental companies. The ability of car sharing and instant car for hire companies to deliver better technology to the marketplace has exacted extreme pressure onto these traditional rental car companies. The applications and technology that have been delivered into the renter's hands by these new upstarts are nothing short of marvelous when compared to what is available from traditional national rental chains. Further, the changing landscape of the automotive business and the impending rollout of autonomous vehicles will continue to place extreme technological pressures on this line of business. Hertz has recently signed a deal with Apple in which they will be leasing Lexus RX 450 hybrid SUVs for self-driving fleet tests. This, combined with the arrangement between Avis and Google's Waymo, has the potential to dramatically change the rental car business model. Hertz has also been partnering with Shift, which is an online social used car site that can sell vehicles both through website and applications direct to consumers. This allows Hertz to take advantage of the Shift mobile app and to deliver a hassle-free buying experience for technologically savvy customers. When examining the global environment, one area of global concern for the car rental business is that the flattening of the world because of technology. Meetings can be held in real time with crystal clear, high definition video conferences taking the place of cross country flights, hotel stays, and meetings held in corporate boardrooms. The connecting dots in this equation were the business rental cars of old, and the advent of technology allowing for greater global collaboration is eviscerating that section of the market, saving time, money, and resources for companies all around the globe. The physical environment of the rental car business is changing as it has many times over the years. Future changes are likely to be much more dramatic than the consumer's preference for more luxurious vehicles, those with hybrid power or certain features like Bluetooth or navigation. What will radically change is the need to adapt to consumers' preferences for car sharing, instant car for hire, per minute rental, and even autonomous vehicle rental. A company who can craft a strategic plan to capture revenue from these new areas of opportunity will be well positioned into the future. So now we'll take a moment to examine the industry environment analysis. The first thing we'll look at is the bargaining power of buyers. And the bargaining power of buyers in the rental car industry is really not that favorable, as there are multiple brands from which customers may choose. Most travel websites and mobile apps are specifically designed to allow a customer to compare prices among multiple brands, which places a lot of power in the hands of the customer. Comparison shopping is the norm. While many car rental companies offer loyalty programs, comparing the perks of one program against another also gives the customer the power to choose the right price and experience. Overall, this is unfavorable for Hertz. The bargaining power of suppliers is also not favorable to the industry, as vehicle fleets must be purchased from major automobile manufacturers. Car rental companies have considerably less negotiating power than the automobile companies, who can sell their product direct to consumers as well as to other rental companies. Fuel costs are also a major expense for the car rental companies, and another area in which there is little to no negotiation power. Overall, this is unfavorable for Hertz. The threat of new entrants is favorable for the industry, as there are three companies which clearly dominate the car rental market: Hertz, Enterprise, and Avis. The sheer size of these companies is a major obstacle for any new competitor to overcome. The amount of capital a company must raise in order to invest in a fleet of vehicles needed to supply demand is also a substantial barrier. Overall, this is actually very favorable for Hertz. The threat of substitute products is also not favorable for the industry, as customers have multiple alternative options. For long-distance travel, customers can opt for air or train travel, or to drive their own personal vehicles. For shorter distances, taxis, car sharing, ride sharing services are all favorable options for many. There are also technological disruptions in the travel industry, as conference and video calls are widely used for business meetings that were formerly held in person. Overall, this would be unfavorable for Hertz. Interfirm rivalry is the central force defining the car rental industry, but it is also not favorable. Price rivalry is extremely common, and as price is the top consideration for customers, it puts extreme pressure on the companies that compete in this segment. As stated above, nearly all travel websites and mobile apps allow customers to compare prices across car rental brands, which has led to price wars amongst the competitors. This force clearly favors the customer and is perhaps the primary reason why the car rental industry is seeing profitability decline, where car sharing is showing steady growth. Overall, unfavorable for Hertz. So now we'll move on to the competitor analysis. Hertz operates globally under the Hertz, Dollar, and Thrifty brands, with locations in North America, Central America, Africa, Asia, Australia, Caribbean, Europe, Middle East, and New Zealand. They operate in three segments: U.S. car rentals, international car rentals, and fleet vehicle leasing and management. The Hertz brand is considered to be a top-tier brand with focus on service, quality, and product innovation. The Dollar brand is targeted to be the smart value brand aimed toward those customers who are looking for a good deal but still have elevated expectations and concentrates on servicing business and leisure travels through airport rentals. The Thrifty brand is geared even more toward delivering value to vacationers and tourists at both on and off airport locations. Hertz is known for its Gold Plus Rewards program, which allows participating members the ability to pick up their rental vehicle more quickly, often bypassing the rental counter and proceeding directly to their vehicle. Additionally, it allows members the ability to select which vehicle they want to drive. This is perceived as a competitive advantage for Hertz, especially among frequent travelers, and Hertz actively targets those customers with sales and marketing programs. Hertz also offers the car sharing service Hertz 24/7, allowing members to rent a vehicle by the hour or the day, though at this time, this service is only available in Europe and Australia. Avis, which operates the Avis Budget, Payless, and Zipcar brands, has locations in North America, Australia, Europe, and New Zealand. It operates in two segments, the Americas and International, both of which license the company's brands to third parties for vehicle rentals and other ancillary services. Avis is the top-tier brand preferred by corporate and upscale leisure travelers and makes up 60% of the company's revenue. Budget is the mid-tier brand preferred more value by more value-conscious travelers, and Payless is the deep discount value brand. Avis acquired Zipcar in 2013, the first car-sharing company in the United States, to allow members to request the specific make and model of car online or through a mobile device. Avis also offers programs geared towards improving the customer experience and establishing loyalty with their brands. The Avis Now mobile application allows the customer to control the rental experience on their mobile device and to reduce the amount of time spent picking up or returning a vehicle. And the preferred Select and Go program is also designed to better communicate with the customers and allow for vehicle choice. Enterprise Holdings Group operates globally three brands, the Enterprise, National, and Alamo brands. They have locations in North America, Central America, South America, Africa, Asia, Australia, Europe, the Middle East, and New Zealand. They are the most widely dispersed brand in the car rental business. The Enterprise brand is the mid-tier brand known for affordable rates, neighborhood convenience, and outstanding customer service, such as being picked up at no additional cost. National is the top-tier brand specializing in premium service for frequent airport travelers. The Alamo brand is geared more toward value-conscious customers looking for a hassle-free rental experience. Enterprise also offers a loyalty program for each of its brands, but their competitive advantage is their network of independent subsidiaries that allow for locations within 15 miles of 90% of the U.S. population. They also engage in fleet rental and fleet management services, much the same as Hertz Corporation. Moving on to financial performance. For the purposes of this comparison, only Hertz and Avis will be evaluated as enterprises privately held at this time. Shown here, the stock price over the last 3 years, as the graph indicates, both companies have seen very similar trends until July 1st of 2016, at which time the stock price for Hertz increased significantly as they split the equipment rental business off from the car rental business that they operate. The split brought in approximately $2 billion in proceeds, which Hertz used to pay down a portion of its corporate debt. They also offered a share repurchase program to enhance shareholder value. By the end of 2016, stock price had moved back to the comparable range with Avis, and thus far in 2017, the two company stocks have been quite close in price, alternating positions in terms of which is higher at any given point in time. So now we're going to take a look at the last 3 years of financial data. And Avis and Enterprise have both commissioned a steady deployment of new rental vehicle inventory in new locations over the past 3 years. During the same time, Hertz has shed locations in 2 of 3 years and pared down its fleet size in 1 of those years. Over the 3-year period, revenue growth has been most consistent for national enterprise, with growth between 8 to 10% annually. Growth for the other two competitors was less consistent, ranging from 4% to 1.59% for Hertz, with 2 of the 3 years negative. That's actually negative 4% to 1.59%. The revenue growth for Avis was also negative in 1 year and ranged from negative 1% to positive 5.77% during the 3-year period. And looking at this first set of years in the 3-year period, we can see that all three companies experienced revenue growth in 2014, with Hertz bringing up the rear. Hertz opened the most new locations in that year, although growth overall was soft in the industry, and Enterprise saw the largest growth in their fleet at 11.64%. In 2015, Hertz shed more than 11% of their locations and saw revenue decline year over year. Its fleet size changed incrementally, while Avis and Enterprise each grew the size of their fleet by about 6.7%. Enterprise saw revenue increase by 8% in the same year. Hertz's revenue declined by just a little under 1%. Avis's declined by exactly 1%. And the growth from 2015 to 2016, Hertz again shed locations in this period, and we can see that 18% of their total locations were removed, and revenues declined in the same period by nearly 4%. Their fleet size, Hertz's fleet size, actually shrank by a little less than 2% during the same period. During the same time period, Enterprise grew their fleet by nearly 11% and their locations by just under 2.5%. And conversely, Enterprise saw revenue gains of over 10%, while Hertz had revenue declines of just under 4%. So what are some of Hertz's key success factors? Well, they do have some success factors working in their favor. One is it has built the largest network of airport car rental locations in both the US and the world, but others are catching up. Loyalty club rentals are incrementally higher than the industry average at 34% versus 28%, so there is some opportunity to build upon this. Hertz is a preferred rental replacement marketplace with nearly all insurance providers. When somebody crashes and they need a semi-permanent transportation replacement before final claims can be paid, this is very important. The company currently has agreements with 192 national and local agencies. It is the preferred supplier for 119 of these agencies, and it is the co-primary preferred supplier for an additional 39 agencies. So there are some opportunities here for success. Another area that Hertz has been very successful in is the fleet and claims management business. This is a very marketable product that is already seeing success and is even finding its way into the new economies, as it has a deal with Apple for autonomous car fleet management. This is a source of revenue that is likely to grow over time and become a larger portion of their business as transportation needs change. Here we have the Hertz management team. Ms. Marinello, who is the president and CEO of Hertz, joined the organization at the end of 2016 and has an unproven track record with Hertz at this time. Mr. Turide has over 30 years of experience with Hertz in Europe and has served at the executive level in various capacities since 1998. Mr. Kennedy, who is the CFO, was previously the CFO of Vanguard Car Rental, which was the former parent of National and Alamo. Two executives of the company, Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Marin, previously worked with airline companies Northwestern Airlines, which is now a part of Delta, and ExpressJet, respectively, which may still be of benefit in the corporate partner alliance arena. So let's talk about some of the key problems and alternatives that face Hertz. In the first quarter of 2016, trips taken with ride-sharing services such as Uber or Lyft had nearly doubled from the same period during the previous year. Also, car rentals declined by 10% during that same period of time. Many companies will now cover the cost of such ride-sharing services as a part of their travel and expense management, and some actively encourage employees to utilize these services as a part of their journey. Not to mention the convenience of such services is making them increasingly attractive to travelers, especially when car rental locations are often located miles away from the airport and require additional shuttle time to pick up or return the vehicle. Uber and Lyft also allow business travelers to expense their rides directly to their employer, eliminating the need to keep up with receipts or to submit for reimbursement. Continued growth within the business travel industry for ride sharing will further cut into the revenues of traditional car rental companies. If these traditional renters wish to stabilize this portion of their revenue stream, they must create a plan and combat this leakage before it becomes catastrophic for their financial engines. In addition to the threats from ride-sharing apps, the car rental market also has to fend off the growing autonomous vehicle market. Avis has signed a deal with Waymo, a division of Alphabet, to offer fleet support and maintenance services at its Avis and Budget car rental locations. By contrast, there are reports that Hertz is leasing 6 vehicles to Apple for autonomous vehicle testing, though Apple is not sharing any further details at this time. Another recent disruptor in the car rental industry is the app Turo, which allows customers to rent a vehicle from a private party rather than a rental car company. Being ahead of, or at the very least, cruising along with this new trend allows for car rental companies to continue towards revenue and efficiency goals. Failing to at least acknowledge these new trends could merge them onto the highways of rapid growth and instead see them gaining meager ground on the slower moving arterial roads of their industry. The industry has really been fairly stagnant for decades, and disruptors such as ride-sharing services and autonomous vehicles will likely continue to cut into the market. Those who are continuing to rent vehicles are demanding more crossover and SUV options, which could be challenging for car rental companies to keep up with the demand as troubled automakers try to steer those vehicles towards more profitable retail channels. Historically, the car rental market has tended to purchase vehicles that did not sell well on the consumer market, and many automakers are stopping production on such fleet vehicles. With this pulling of the emergency brake from manufacturers, acquisition costs for vehicles could and likely will rise. In a time when growth rates have rivaled inflation rates for car rental companies, this creates perilous conditions on the road to profitability. It is imperative that Hertz find an opening and move into the passing lane to speed their annual growth. A failure to shift gears and increase velocity will leave a substantial opening for Enterprise and Avis to continue their gains within the marketplace. New markets can provide the boost that Hertz desires. So this gets us to recommendations. At the end of the day, Hertz and its competitors must move to where the market is going. The growth is going to continue at a small rate in the US, but the large growth that companies and shareholders desire will be found in the newly emerging markets of China, India, Russia, Brazil, and other countries that have typically been ignored by the westernized world. They must establish a presence in these emerging economies and work to create a position of market dominance or a top of market position within the countries poised to see the largest future growth rates for more than a decade. Companies who find a way to successfully enter and succeed in these markets will be the ones driving the road to profitability and growth. Secondly, Hearst must shift its advertising. The countries that spend the most on tourism should be the nations where Hertz focuses the majority of their advertising budgets as the company continues forward. The current strategy of relying on loyalty programs and offers has not helped them to combat the market dominance of Enterprise and has seen them begin to fall behind. By focusing its advertising efforts into the markets from which travelers originate, Hertz will create familiarity and engagement with its customers. Presently, China is the largest market in terms of tourists who travel, followed by the United States, Germany, the UK, and France in that order. In fact, Chinese tourists spent an amount almost equal to that of tourists from the US, Germany, and the UK combined during 2016. In markets like Brazil and China, where some companies have begun to achieve positions of market dominance, it may make sense to acquire some of these new foreign market rivals if the transactions can be structured in a way that is in line with historical acquisitions. Though, even if the cost of acquisition turn out to be higher than the 4 to 6 times annual earnings that has historically been the rate in the rental car company acquisition market, the transactions could prove worthwhile. The assumptions on historical acquisitions are, after all, based on the paltry inflation-like growth rates of the US market past. A fourth item that is less an action plan for growth and more an imperative for survivability is that Hertz needs to not only adapt with changing technology, but needs to emerge as a top technology provider in the temporary transportation market. According to Bloomberg, the car rental industry is facing the same kind of threat that ended Blockbuster Video, and that it could be undone by new technology. While consumers will continue to need rental vehicles, Hertz will need to adapt to getting the customer into the vehicle more quickly and removing barriers like standing in line at rental car counters to pick up or drop off the vehicle. Hertz should also continue to collaborate with ride-sharing services by allowing Uber or Lyft drivers to rent vehicles, and further strategize with tech giants like Apple on the development of autonomous vehicles. In a recent survey, Hertz website and mobile technology ranked last among national providers in page load times, search response times, and time per task. If Hertz cannot work to move its technology from its current meager levels to something that is more on par with best in industry solutions like Lyft and Uber, they will be in for a very short ride down a very bumpy road. So this leads us to Hertz is one of the largest car rental companies in the country, is in a unique position for future success. However, they do have some great challenges that they need to address as we've outlined here today. Despite these challenges, if Hertz can be the first to market and land in a position of dominance and the market's poised to see the largest future growth, they will place themselves in a better position for success. They must shift their advertising focus to where the customers originate from. And if they find themselves looking in from the outside in these new markets as new competitors grab a stronghold, an acquisition strategy should be deployed. Their technology is not class leading or noteworthy and must be improved. If they do all of these things, it isn't as if they'll be able to lock in cruise control and head down the highway of profitability, but they will be able to smooth their revenue streams and the predictability of them as they continue to roll forward on much smoother roads. Thank you very much for watching our presentation on Hertz today. I hope you learned something, and we appreciate your time.